take you to KwaMamsuthu informal settlement, where residents are calling on government to relocate them from the banks of the flooded Umgeni River. EFF leader Julius Malema visiting that community today and offering a helping hand. Well, let's take you to our reporter Karinda Jagmohan, who's live for us tonight. Karinda, good evening to you. Give us a sense of how this visit by the EFF leader Julius Malema was received by the community there.
Indeed. Good evening, Kathy. The community of KwaMamsuthu cheering as Julius Malema arrived with relief aid. We hear that he is donating 500,000 rand to the community via a local church which is housing and feeding the victims of this flood. My colleague Lungelo Zungu will show you where we are, which is where the KwaMamsuthu area used to be. Behind him you'll see the houses, the structures literally hanging off the banks of the Umgeni River. In fact, where we're standing, there used to be structures here, but these were washed away. One person died in this area, Kathy, a 23-year-old, and sadly his elder sister, who last saw him alive here on the first night of the flood, says she doesn't have anything to remember him by. What you're seeing right now, this was a home here as well. Fortunately, residents were able to flee to an area across the freeway. But like Lungelo will show you on the ground, what remains here is just debris, people's homes, things people used to have, blankets. We saw even a DVD here, bowls, whatever would be inside a person's house is now strewn across and mixed with this rocks, the rubble of what used to be the bank of the Umgeni River. It's not the first time a flood like this has happened in recent times here, but the incident here was indeed the worst, and we understand one person remains missing. Now, earlier when the EFF leader Julius Malema came here, just before that, we spoke to residents and they said that while they appreciate the relief aid being handed down, what they really want at this point going forward is to be relocated, because they're worried that if another natural disaster were to occur, that they wouldn't be able to survive. Of course, they're fearing for their lives. And you must remember, Kathy, where we are now is about a 15-minute drive from the Durban CBD, and these are the structures that you are seeing before you that people have built on this specific land. Kathy, earlier today, of course, Julius Malema just speaking to the issue of land expropriation and pointing out that the residents here should have been moved a long time ago because the land that they are occupying is not safe. Take a listen to what Malema told media earlier today.
All those people have to be moved there and provided an alternative land. And it is not a matter that was supposed to take us 7 days. If we had a government that knew which land they own and where, they would have identified that land and immediately removed those people and reallocated them. Now, these people have told us that they've tried to identify pieces of land. When they arrive there, they are told this is an individual-owned land. Why can't the government expropriate that land? Because we have declared a national disaster, which means we do everything in our power to ease the lives of our people.
Karinda, looking at the state of that area, I mean, the first issue is that they should have never built, houses there, and the fact that they were even there is a big risk. But now, what are the plans being made to help relocate these families? Because there can't be an expectation for people to go back to that area.
Indeed, that's the question on everyone's minds here. What will be the plan going forward? I'm not sure if you'll be able to see, if Lungelo can show you, that we're literally right next to part of the Umgeni River. This will ultimately flow into the Blue Lagoon. And you're seeing the debris here. These were people's homes, Kathy, and these homes have no longer survived. As we saw the EFF leader Julius Malema mention, is that the residents should have been moved a long time ago. When we came here last last week. We saw that there was a mass community meeting, and residents now are trying through their ward committee officials, their ward councillor, to see how, if they will be able to be moved out of here. I'm still hearing helicopters over us, and this is really the scene in eThekwini, where you're just seeing helicopters, search and rescue teams all around you. And here, of course, what the residents are bemoaning, and again, just be reminded of the structures that they are living in, is that for them, housing in eThekwini is a major issue. It always has been, especially if you remember that this is very close to the Durban CBD. Many people who moved here wanted employment close to the city and have come from very inland parts of the province. And now what they're calling for and what they're demanding is to be moved to at least a higher ground, or at least are threatening to protest should they not be able to receive any word. We haven't heard yet from the eThekwini municipality on what exact plans would be for this KwaMamsuthu informal settlement, but indeed residents here say that they have been tired with the lack of proper housing as well as sanitation. One of the only ablution facilities for especially this part of the settlement has been washed away. So residents only have one tap to collect water from, and it's unclear also about their sanitation and their ablution. For many people here, it's been a very, very difficult month at least, and it's unclear what will happen going forward.
Karinda, you've shown us the visuals of some of those structures that are literally hanging on the edge of that riverbank. Are there people in those houses as well? Or have some of them moved to the local community halls that are said to be housing people?
Well, in these structures, we'll also try and get a bit closer. We're walking over the rubble. I'm seeing a TV screen on the ground as well that I'm stepping on. There's no one in these structures where most of the structures are hanging over the riverbank. But further on, in the distance, I see two men there. So some people are still remaining in their homes. They want to protect whatever they have. And there has been some sort of hesitance to even go to community halls because people don't want to lose the spot, the housing site that they would have. Housing itself, again, is a major issue in eThekwini. So people do not want to go. But, the most frightening thing is that this bank you see before you is not stable. When we were here early in the day, one man was just stepping over it, and a large portion crumbled still. So the fear by the community is that should another natural disaster come, which in this time of climate change, Kathy, is very, very likely, they fear that their structures will not survive. You can see here, it was an entire structure that was sitting here on the banks of the Umgeni River, and most of its belongings now, its content, is just strewn now amidst the rubble, amidst the rock. Fortunately, many people have survived. There aren't any reports of injuries, but the community themselves are traumatized by what has happened. They say this is the worst flood that they have seen, and while flooding usually occurs, they've had enough, especially when you look at the magnitude of this disaster across the province.
All right, Karinda, let's leave it there for tonight, and do keep safe while you're out there reporting on the story. Karinda Jagmohan bringing us the latest from that informal settlement, KwaMamsuthu, outside eThekwini. Well,